Greetings and salutations! Welcome to the EzeeLinux show, version 18.11, recorded March the 2nd, 2018. And if you are seeing this, that means that we got through the recording and the upload without losing power. We are currently in the middle of a big storm going on here on the east coast of the United States. It's what we call a nor'easter, which means that we have winds gusting up to 60 miles per hour. So some folks in the area have lost some power. That is the truth. What are we going to talk about today? Well, I want to talk about basically two things. I want to talk about a little script that I published and put up on the EzeeLinux bash script page. It's really not a huge script, and it just does one simple little task. But it's kind of an interesting thing that a lot of folks who use VirtualBox may not even know that you can do. So I will get into that. I also want to talk a little bit about a really cool distribution of Linux called MX17. We'll actually be demonstrating the script in MX17, and then we'll start talking about that, just because it's very intriguing and it is representative of the fact that Linux is really getting good, guys. Really getting good. Every Linux distribution that I have looked at, and I've looked at several over the last month or so, they've gotten to a place where all of them are good. I mean, even ones that I just flat out didn't like KDE Neon and Elementary OS. They're great. They all work. They do it exactly what they're supposed to do, which is pretty amazing. Okay, so let's get into this. This is a script that I wrote because this is something that I do all the time where, let's say that you have 3 or 4 virtual machines running and you have allocated each machine a whole lot of drive space. In other words, the virtual drive that you created, let's say that you gave them 100 gigabytes, which is huge. I mean, for a virtual machine, it really doesn't need all that much. But it's dynamically allocated. So when you first install Linux, it takes somewhere between 6 and 8 gigabytes, depending on the distribution, to fill up that space, correct? And you have loaded files on the machine and compiled things and done all kinds of crazy stuff with it. Now your drive has sort of grown over time, but you've actually not gone very far beyond the size of the operating system itself. It's not like you kept any files, it's just that you moved data on, you moved data off, and now you want to move that VM somewhere, or you want to back it up or whatever, and you've got this really big file that doesn't have a whole bunch of stuff in it. Well, you can compact those, and before you do that, you have to prepare the drive in the virtual machine to be compacted. And they don't really give you an easy way to do that. If you go look that up on how to prepare it, somebody's going to tell you to use the dd command and you wipe the drive and all that stuff. You can do that, or you could do something like download BleachBit, which actually wouldn't be a bad idea because that function is in BleachBit, but you have to be able to do each partition. If you have a Linux virtual machine that has a separate system partition and a separate home partition, then you'd have to get BleachBit to do that. And BleachBit can be a little bit tricky to work with. I used to use BleachBit all the time, and now I'm a little bit afraid of it. I'd rather do that sort of stuff manually because BleachBit sometimes can go crazy and do crazy things. But that we're getting off the subject here. So what I did was, I was sitting here actually doing this one day because I was going to be moving some data around, and I thought, this could be a really cool script. So I wrote a script, and we're going to talk about how it works right now. So the first thing that I'm going to do is, it's called PreShrink-VM, by the way. You can come to the EzeeLinux bash script page, which is what we're looking at here. You can come to that page, and you can click on the download. You can go to the GitHub page, and you can check it out there. And you can open up the README, and it explains how to install it and all that stuff. So let's just jump over here real quick to MX17. And I'm going to show you how it works in MX17 because this is running in a virtual machine. So let me open up a terminal here. And this is not what MX17 looks like when you first get it. I've modified it just a little bit just to let you guys know. We'll talk more about it here in just a few minutes. But first, let's talk about our script. So with the script, and let me go ahead and full screen the terminal here in MX17. And we'll make that a little bit easier for everybody to see. All right, so the command is PreShrink And I just typed in PRES and then use the tab to autofill. And if we give it the option help, we can learn more about the program. Isn't that nice? That's what the help page is there for. Okay, so it prints out the help page. And you'll see it really only has 3 basic commands. If you just put in PreShrink-VM, it prepares a VM with 1 active partition. If you have a VM that has a separate home partition, then it will actually wipe that first, and then it'll go do the root partition, so both partitions get taken care of. And then finally, the help option shows the help page. Really simple. It's stupid easy to use, and yes, you can string it along with a bunch of other commands to make it even easier. So let me go ahead and clear that page, and then we're going to go ahead and run it so you can see what it does. Now, what is it doing? Well, I'll tell you while it's working. How's that? We can kill many birds with several stones. And we got that, and just launch it. And it went ahead and took off because this is Debian based, and Debian remembers that you put in your sudo credentials forever. So what is this thing doing? Well, what it's going to do is it's going to go through each partition where a file system is, and it's going to wipe all the free space. It's going to go through and just write zeros for all of the free space, and this includes files that you would have added and deleted. And then when you run the second part of this in the host, what the command does is it goes through and looks for things that are marked 0. See, if you use a VM and you have a dynamically allocated drive and it keeps growing, even if you delete those files, they're not really gone. They're just unlinked. In other words, the system has no way to get to it, but the data is still sitting on the virtual drive. So what this does is it just really simply just wipes it all with the dd command. And of course, it does make your VM grow to full size. So if you're in a situation where you originally, let's say that you allocated 100 gigabytes, when this process is done, it will be the full size of that drive. So we definitely have to compact it and get it down to a smaller size. So that's basically what that does. And this does it automatically with a lot of little checks and things. We'll look at the code here in just a moment. So we've run our command, and now we need to go over and jump into a terminal, and then we can run the command to actually compact the VM. Now in this case, we're not doing it to MX17 because it's running, and I don't want to shut it down. So you would shut down the VM, and then when you wanted to compact it, we're going to do it to my Ubuntu 1804 virtual machine that I have the beta running in for 1804 right now, because I'm testing it and playing around with it. So yeah, this looks like a really long command, but it's not really that long. So let's go ahead and turn that loose. And what it's basically doing is it's just scanning through that virtual drive file, that VDI file, virtual drive image. It is scanning through that and looking for zeros. Anything that's marked 0 is just being excised, and it's recopying it over to a new one that doesn't have the space allocated within the file. That's all it does. Now this can take a few moments, so I'm going to go ahead and just pause the video, and we'll come back when it's done. All done, and now that virtual drive has been shrunk down to the size that matches the actual data we want to keep on it. So that's how this works. And when I first started working on this, I came up with a script, and I'm not lying, that was 400 lines long, because I had it where it was doing like progress bars, and I had all kinds of options in there where it would like clear out caches, and you could even run updates from the script. And I've been poking at this thing for like 2 weeks, just kind of playing around with it. And then I decided this is dumb, because this thing is just, it's doing something really simple. And I don't want it to stop and ask questions or anything, because what you can do is you could have it where you ran your updates and then you used like the apt clean tool or whatever distribution you happen to be in, whatever tools you need to clear out the package cache and all that other stuff. You could put those before this and just make this part of a string of commands, and then you could power it off and it would be done. So that was the whole point. So the first thing that this does is we're just setting aside functions at this point, and as you can see from the main function here, it's this wipe root. it's really very simple. It's a dd command, and it creates a file called 0, and then dd writes zeros into that file until it's full, and then when it does, it gets mad and it says the file is full, which means that the partition that it's writing to is full, and then it removes it. That's all it does. And of course, because it's a script that I am publishing, there has to be like a help page to it. So I put a little help page in here. But really, the only command where you're interested in is dd. Of course, now you got to be real careful with dd. We talked about that with Jeremy O'Connell when we did the Mr. Desktop and Mr. Server talking about P-disks. So this way, it's only going to do this, and it's not going to wipe out your entire hard drive or anything like that. So that's what the code looks like. It's actually really short. It's not a very long script at all. What is it? Ended up being 105 lines, which isn't too bad. A lot of it is testing, and a lot of it is just looking for errors and things like that in here. And it came out quite well. But I really honestly had it up to about 400 lines. I mean, I had so much code in there. I was like, this is crazy, man. Nobody's going to want to deal with all this. So I made it quite small. And that's what the code looks like. And you can check it out on GitHub. One thing I did want to point out before we move on to talking about MX17 is that when you are working with VirtualBox or VMware or any virtualization solution, one of the things that you can do to really improve performance is to take your virtual machines and put them on an entirely different drive and mount it somewhere in your file system that is not in your home directory. And that's really quite easy to do, because if you go into preferences for the VirtualBox, you can set where it goes and all that stuff. You can stick your VMs on this drive, and that's exactly what I have done here. So if I go to, if I list the block storage on this system, you'll see that there is a separate drive, SDB, which is mounted to the home directory, and within home there is VM. So if we list the storage, and let's just list home, then you'll see that we've got my personal directory, which is Joe, and then TimeShift, which is the backup program for the system, and then we have VMs. So they're separate, and that in that drive, it's just mounted up. And I don't have a whole lot of VMs in here right now. I got 3. It's a small drive. It's 160 gigabytes. It's an old 10,000 RPM Velociraptor. It's probably about 10 years old, and it's got about 7 years of hours on it, but it's really, really fast, and it's really, really just super fast. So, you might even if you have a big spinning drive, and if you really want to play around with VMs, put them on an SSD to maximize the performance, because that's where the performance hit is running a virtual machine. It's not necessarily memory. The video isn't that great, but the real performance hit is block I/O, and that's reading from hard drives. And if your virtual machines share space with your home directory and all the things that might be running in the background there, or if you just have one big happy hard drive on your machine, you don't have any other devices, it can really, really kill the performance when you're doing certain operations with virtual machines. So that's something to point out if you're serious about it, and I am, because I do these videos all the time, and I'm always demonstrating things in virtual machines, and I very often have more than one open. So we want to make sure that what we do doesn't interfere with the video capture software, which does have want to happen. So let's stop talking about VirtualBox, and let's talk about this virtual machine, which is running in VirtualBox. This is a distribution of Linux that I have never paid much attention to until I saw, I'm going to just be blatantly honest, Matt Hartley, you turned me on to this. He did a video about this, and he did a really in-depth review of it, and I encourage you to go find it. So actually, I will probably put the link in the description to the video. Also, I will put a link to the projects page here, because this is not a review, gang. We're just taking a look around. So this is EzeeLinux. It's been around for quite some time. It is based on Debian, and it is not too far away from how Debian works. So this is kind of old school stuff going on here. They have really done a lot of neat things, though. So let's open up the welcome page. There it is, and everybody's got to have a welcome page these days, right? And so you get your welcome page, And there's just all kinds of stuff here. So you got a user's manual, which is cool. You can go to the wiki. Let's look at tools. This is where it gets really cool. They have all kinds of really neat tools in here. You can take a snapshot of the system. It's built in. You can fix your you can create a USB. So you can create a bootable image just from right here. If you are running this from a USB stick, you will have the option to fix your grub bootloader. So let's say you did something crazy, you tried to change the kernel or something like that, and you borked up grub and it wouldn't boot. Well, you can reinstall it with a click. There's no terminal, you don't have to do a chroot, you don't have to do nothing. Just do that and it'll reinstall it for you. So there's all kinds of crazy tools in here. You even have a tool in here that lets you control this conky, which is the program that's showing the time and all the system resources. So if you want to get in there and play with that, then be my guest. Although I did try and play with that, and when I did, I really kind of borked up the conky. It was really bad. I don't know how to use the program, and I was sitting there going, I had like 5 of them on the screen. I was like, how did I do that? So anyway, this goes on just forever. It's amazing what's in here. Let's see, what else do we have to talk about? Tweak. This is real basic tweaks where you can choose like themes and things like that. Like for instance, I have chosen the MX dark theme here. And you can also change your compositor. You can use no compositing at all, or you can use the XFCE compositor, or you can use Compton is in here. More stuff with Conky. The creators of MX Linux love the Conky. It's all over the place. And I would never run one, if I was installing it. But if you just let it run and it doesn't bother anything. Just not something that I would make like the main in-your-face feature of my operating system, but that's me. And see, what else did I want to show you here? This is really cool. This is the popular apps. The installer for this particular distribution is insane. It's really well done. And because it is Debian, and this is not Ubuntu or Linux Mint, or they're going to ask you for a root password. You have to set up a root account. It really needs to have it done. Now, what I did was, of course, the main user, the first account created, has sudo privileges, so you can run things with sudo. But there's a couple of times it asked me for the root password. I tried to lock the root account because I don't really like having it activated. But no, I found out you have to have it activated. So what I did was just use the same password for both accounts. That way, whenever it asked one, I was either acting as root using sudo, or I was logging in as root, one of the two. Anyway, software. Look at this, gang. There's just so much in here. This is the popular apps. So let's just look in, let's see, let's go to Media Center. We'll open that up. And look, I got Kodi right here. I got Plex. All I got to do is check that, and it will set that up for me. Let's go down here to, let's see, what else have we got here? Screencast. Check this out. This is really cool. Now remember, this is a Debian base. We've got OBS, Simple Screen Recorder, which if something is kind of ghosted out, that means it's installed. Go up here. We'll go to Browser. Double click here. Well, look at this. I got Google Chrome and Firefox installed. I installed Google Chrome. It wasn't in there by default. But if you want it, just click it and check that box and take off, and it's gone. And there's just so many applications. This is not everything in the repositories. It's just a list of popular apps, and there's just so much good stuff in here. And of course, it is Debian. Debian has really nice repositories. There's a lot of stuff in there. My biggest problem with Debian over the years has always been that Debian, if they don't want you to run a piece of software, or if they don't want you to do something, then what Debian does is just makes it very difficult. You will actually have to go out and hope that you found somebody who compiled a Debian package that you could download independently and put in the machine, or you could also have build stuff from source. And I don't like building things from source if I don't have to. I'd really like to have a package that's just like a one-click thing and it just installs. You know what I'm saying? But it is what it is. Debian is probably, of all the Linuxes out there, Debian is absolutely the most stable. And if all you want is stability and you're not worried about changing things and you don't need to be on the cutting edge of the latest software, then Debian is definitely the way to go. Debian makes wonderful servers. Any machine that you've just got to let run for 5 or 10 years, you could use Debian. So no, I'm not hating on Debian. I'm just saying it's not newbie friendly, and if it doesn't fit your use case, it doesn't fit your use case. Just that simple. But this fits, actually this would fit my use case. This is really not bad. They have videos that you can watch. Let's see what happens when I click there. What I get. Oh, it's going to take me, it opened up the Firefox, and then it takes me to the videos page on the MX community site. That's cool. I can deal with that. That's awesome. No problems there. And you, while you're getting to know the system, you can have it show this dialog every time you boot up. So that's not bad. This is an XFCE desktop. They have done a lot of tweaking and configuration to it. So if you've used XFCE before and you don't like this, you can put it back the way any way that you want it to be. I'm kind of liking it a little bit, to tell you the truth. They have a little clock up here. You can get a weather application and put it on your panel, and it's very easy to use and very easy to set up. And then, like down here, we have we will be prompted for updates to let you know that there are updates. Here's the sound. So right now it looks kind of cheesy, like there's nothing there. But if you open the mixer, you get a proper mixer. It's like pulse audio volume control. Very close to it here. So you can play with the sound. I don't think the sound is working in this VM because I didn't set it up properly when I set up the VM. But I'll play with it later. I don't really care about VMs making noise. It's just to play with them. There's a little desktop switcher down here. So right now it's set to do 2. Right here, lower right-hand corner. I hope you can see that. So if we go to the workspace settings, right now it's set to 2. We can go ahead and set that to like 4 if we want to. And you notice it, let's see, let's go ahead and just close that, which will apply it. So now we have, it's very hard to use with 4. You'd have to, you get the point though. Let's just switch the desktop over. See, I'm moving from desktop to desktop. And it kind of indicates where it is, which is actually fine with me because when I switch desktops, I always do it with the keyboard. I don't need a desktop switcher anywhere on there when I'm using virtual desktops because I just move around from desktop to desktop. So, software availability, got it. Really nice implementation. And now that I've shown this, I'm going to go to my panel and I'm going to go to my panel preferences. And what I want to do is intelligently hide this. So that means if I have a window that opens up that it's bigger, like let's open up Firefox here. That's okay. See, the panel will get out of the way if there's a window that gets close to it. See that? And you know, XFCE has its good points and bad points. It's actually really my second favorite desktop is XFCE, other than like Cinnamon, and it's just because it's easy to work with. The only reason why I don't run XFCE and I stick with, well, there's some things in Cinnamon that I absolutely need. I'll give you for instance right now, and this is something that Cinnamon does that I can't find in any other desktop. I need to see everything that's running on this computer right now. So I'm going to get a global view of everything on this machine. If it will let me. It may or may not. We'll see. As I am running a virtual machine here. Okay, well, I can do it from here for sure. So if I want to see everything that's on this desktop, then all I do is do the alternate and the control key and then use a down arrow, and then I come over here and I can actually like make things bigger and easier to see by using the scroll, and I'm still in this expo mode. So this is really useful when you have like two things running, and you're like, you could have a video running over here, and you could have something running in your terminal over here, and I do this all the time. So I can have my video full screened like this, and I'm still looking at what's going on in my terminal. So I love that, right? So that's something that's just for one desktop. So if I wanted to see what was running on everything, then it gives me this entire global view. So there's Google Chrome, there's this, there's the virtual machine for MX17, there's the capture software, and I can dynamically add desktops or remove desktops. And to get to that, I used alternate control and the up arrow key. I am so used to this functionality, gang, that I don't want to use anything else. If I try and use, I've tried a lot of desktops playing around, and I always come back to Cinnamon because of those little features, and there's other creature comforts in there. But we're talking about MX17 with the XFCE desktop. This is really just a super solid, very interesting, feature-rich Linux distribution, and it is screaming fast, which is another reason I like it. It's stable and it's fast. It's not necessarily my cup of tea. I don't know whether I would ever want to install this and make this my home, because I'm really digging Mint. I'm kind of committed to Mint, but it's not bad, so I wanted to at least show it. And you can also check out Matt Hartley's good video about this, because he goes into a lot more detail with MX17. He'll show you more in that video. And, you know, we like them people over there at Freedom Penguin. We always have, so a little cross-pollination is never a bad thing. Alright, gang, thank you for watching the video. I certainly do appreciate it. It is, well, one thing about MX, I want to show you this about MX17, which I think is actually really cool, and then I'll shut up about it. I really like their prompt. I know this is a stupid, silly thing, but they have come up with a very interesting prompt. So if we make this bigger, you see that we have what looks like a normal prompt right there, which is really cool, and it's all colorized, and it's very cool. And then when we get out here, we jump down to another line. And why would you want to do that? Well, what I use on my system, and this is my main computer right here, I've modified my prompt to be a compact prompt. So if I go CD, Documents, Scripts, and then I go into my Git projects, and then I go into, let's say, XBT, all right, and I want to go in here, it just shows me the directory that I'm in. It doesn't show me the full path. And that's good because it keeps the prompt compact. But if I really want to know how I got there, I've got to put in, present working directory command or print working directory, and it shows up. What this does, the way MX has it set up, is that if we can, let's do the same thing. Let's go, I want to CD, and I'm going to go to, let's go to user, and then we'll go to local, with a small L. Local, thank you. And we'll look in the binary directory. Well, now look, see, it puts that directory up top, so I know where I am, I know what I'm working with, and then when I go to, I get the whole width of the terminal to actually execute the command. That's pretty cool. So, I almost switched over to this. I almost said, well, I'm going to use that like that full time. And then I went, nah, I'm not going to do that. But I thought it was a really cool prompt. Really cool prompt. This has been very, very impressive what the MX Linux folks have done. It's based on Debian. It has some roots in Mepis. So if you've been around long enough to remember Mepis, that a lot of the tools look the same. Very modern distro with a lot of great software. Check it out. Video's done now. I'm going to shut up and go away. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate it. Check out EzeeLinux on the web. Check out EzeeLinux on Facebook. Check out EzeeLinux at freedompenguin.com, because a lot of content from this particular project ends up over there. And, of course, there are other people who contribute very cool things to freedompenguin.com, like Matt Hartley, like the Linux Gamer. A lot of stuff over there. So do check it out. Thanks for watching. We will do it again soon. Bye, y'all.